It's official. The NCAA has decided to expand its basketball tournaments from 68 to 76 teams. Next, you'll tell me that they're going to expand the college football playoff from 12 to 24 teams. Funny you should mention that. We get to the bottom of all this madness next on Scarbo Knows. Leave it to the NCAA to take the one thing that it does best and tinker with it, water it down, shake it up, change it for really no good reason. And that's exactly what they did today when they made it official. They are expanding the men's and women's basketball tournaments from 68 to 76 teams, effective next season. That's right. Next season, you will have a 76-team bracket on the men's side and on the women's side. Why? Well, I have a good friend who likes to say, the answer is money. What's the question? And, of course, that's the answer to the question, why is the NCAA expanding its basketball tournaments? Why is it not leaving well enough alone? Why is it fixing something that's not broken? Why is it risking the best postseason in all of sports? Money. And let's at least give the NCAA credit for acknowledging that. Dan Gavitt is the senior vice president of basketball for the NCAA, son of Dave Gavitt, one of the true pioneers, leaders, innovators in the sports history, who basically birthed the Big East Conference way back in the day, and one of the great moves in college basketball history for those schools to get together and realize their collective power. Dan Gavitt said that they are going to make, this was on a teleconference after the news was made official, that the TV partners of the NCAA are going to kick in an additional $300 million over the next 6 years, and that's the length of the rest of the existing TV contract with CBS, Turner, et cetera, that they're going to give the NCAA or pay the NCAA an extra $300 million over the next 6 years, about $50 million a year, to expand the tournament. And Gavitt admitted that without the TV partners kicking in that extra revenue, they wouldn't have expanded the tournament. So let's give him credit for being honest about that. And the NCAA, in its really lengthy press release explaining what this new format is going to look like, said, they even broke down how they're going to spend it. They said about $131 million will go to the schools in revenue distributions. In other words, the schools that make the tournament, they each receive what's called a unit for every game they play, or their conferences do. And then the conferences distribute that money as they see fit. So the more games you win, the more money your conference makes, and the more money your school makes. So $131 million of the $300 million is going to go back to the schools for winning games. What about the other $169 million or so? Well, there will be expenses, of course, because the NCAA does pay to fly schools to tournament sites. They pay for lodging and meals, etc. But after expenses, they said, let's look at this. The surplus will primarily be used to continue investing in the basketball tournaments and enhancing the NCAA championship experience for all student athletes, whatever that means. So, where are these student athletes going to come from? Which teams are going to populate these expanded brackets? Gavitt said that every single Division I conference was in favor of this move, was in favor of expanding the tournament. Well, of course they were, because they're all operating under the delusion that more spots available means more opportunities available for their conferences to get more teams into the tournament. That sounds good on paper or maybe in their heads, but clearly they haven't been paying attention. And we've talked about this before. Just look at the last 2 years. In 2025, the SEC put 14 teams into the NCAA tournament, a new record. The Big Ten had 8. Combined, they had 22 of the 68 teams in the field. That's 32%, about a third of the entire field from 2 conferences. This past year, the SEC had 10. The Big Ten had 9. That's 19 of 68. That's 28%. You think that number is going to drop? You think that opening up additional at-large spots, and that's what this is going to do. This will add 8 at-large teams to the field. You think they're going to come from the Sun Belt, the American Conference, or do you think they're going to come from the SEC and the Big Ten? Most of them are going to come from the Power 5. Most of them have been coming from the Power 5. Dave Warlock, who's the media coordinator for March Madness, he tweeted out some interesting numbers. In the last 15 tournaments, which is every one since they added the first 4 back in 2011 when they expanded 68 teams. They created the first 4 in Dayton, 4 games over 2 nights. The 4 lowest rated automatic qualifiers and the 4 lowest rated at-large teams. UAB was actually in that first 4. I covered the Blazers in that tournament. It didn't feel quite like the regular NCAA tournament, the bracket proper. They tried to make it feel like it was just the same as being at a first-round site. It wasn't quite the same. But since they started the first 4 in 2011, over the last 15 tournaments, that means 60 teams were designated as the first 4 out. In other words, the selection committee on Selection Sunday would acknowledge that these were the next 4 teams that would have been in the field or that they considered, but they didn't make the cut. They were the closest 4 to making the cut, but they didn't make it. Of those 60 teams, first 4 out, 38 came from the Power 5 conferences, 22 from mid-majors. And, of course, some mid-majors are more mid than others. So 63% of the first 4 out came from the Power 5, 37% came from mid-majors. In the last 3 years, those numbers have gone up in favor of the Power 5. Of the 12 first 4 out in the last 3 tournaments, 8 of those teams came from the Power 5 conferences, 4 came from mid-majors. That's 67% from the Power 5. And with the resources available to the Power 5 in general, the SEC and the Big Ten in particular, those numbers aren't dropping. This past year, the first 2 teams out were Oklahoma and Auburn. They would have been in the NCAA tournament. They wouldn't have had to sweat on Selection Sunday. If this year were next year, and all else being equal, and there were 76 spots available in the bracket, 45 on the at-large side, Auburn would have been in the tournament. 17-16 Auburn. 1 game over 500 Auburn. 7-11 in the SEC Auburn. Loser of 9 of its last 12 games entering Selection Sunday Auburn. A team that lost 3 times down the stretch to non-NCAA tournament teams, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, and Oklahoma. That Auburn team would have been comfortably in the NCAA tournament. Is that what we want? Is that fooling anyone? And of course, coaches, for the most part, there are exceptions, but it seems like a lot of coaches are in favor of this. Well, of course they are. Seth Greenberg, former coach, who missed the NCAA tournament far more than he made it during his coaching days, has been one of the leading advocates for expanding the tournament. Of course, coaches want more spots. That gives them more opportunities, they think, to get their team in the tournament. And guess what? When they make the tournament, they get a bonus. Not sure what the regular salary is for, but pretty much all of them get a bonus if they make the tournament. And they're probably thinking that it allows them to maybe keep their jobs longer, not get fired as quickly. If they can put on their resume, made the NCAA tournament, even if they made it's not the not the first four, it's not the first 12, they're going to call it the opening round. Going forward, these 12 games over 2 nights at 2 different sites on Tuesday and Wednesday night of opening tournament week. They're not fooling anyone. You're not fooling the fans. Fans know what 17 and 16 means. It means you were mediocre. And not to pick on Auburn, but they're the perfect example at hand at the moment. A power conference team can play, as Auburn did, one of the better schedules in the country, and ride that strength of schedule into the tournament, even if they didn't win many of those games. Even if they've got run out of the gym by the likes of Michigan and Arizona and Purdue, as Auburn did this past season. Look, when Auburn was good, it was very good. It beat Florida in Gainesville. But when Auburn was bad, Auburn was very bad. Not just getting run by the likes of Michigan, Arizona, and Purdue, but rolling over against Mississippi State and Ole Miss and Oklahoma, none of which made the NCAA tournament this past season. So the perception of Stephen Pearl, would it change if there were a 76-team field this year, if Auburn made the tournament and they played in the opening round in Dayton on Tuesday night, particularly if they lost to get to 17 and 17? Would that make you think that he did a better job in his first year on the job as a head coach simply because they watered down the tournament, they opened the door wider to mediocrity, and they let Auburn in, along with 7 other teams that underperformed during the regular season? And I love this thought. One of the NCAA folks today, I'm not sure who, said this is not going to impact the regular season or the conference tournaments. Well, not in terms of the calendar. And we are getting better early non-conference games than ever. The Players era in Las Vegas is going to basically be 2 tournaments, 2 different brackets, an 8-team bracket the week before Thanksgiving. Auburn's going to play in that. And then a 16-team bracket the week of Thanksgiving. Alabama will play in that. So we're getting really good non-conference games. And now maybe we'll get more of those because teams don't have to worry about losing as much. If you can get beat by 27, 28, 29, 30 against the best teams in the country, but hey, at least you played them. At least they bolstered your strength of schedule, which was already going to be really strong because you play in the SEC. So why not play more of those marquee games, especially given the guarantee money involved? So, no, it probably won't affect the regular season. And maybe we'll get even more, again, of these great intersectional matchups, these non-conference games. More Michigan Dukes, for example. More Alabama St. John's. More Auburn Michigans. But what about the conference tournaments? This is the part of the debate that people who make decisions regarding basketball should understand, but don't seem to. No matter how much you struggled during the regular season, no matter how much you underperformed given your talent level and your resources, you still have a chance to play your way into the NCAA tournament in a 68-team field. Or you did in the days of the 68-team field, going back to the 64-team field, because you had a conference tournament. You could get hot. Think Auburn 1985 under Sonny Smith when they won 4 games in 4 days. Sonny had resigned at midseason, coached out the year, changed his mind because Auburn got into the NCAA tournament because they beat Alabama in the SEC tournament championship game in Birmingham, and then they made a run to the Sweet 16. You had that opportunity. It's one of the great things about college basketball. You could make up for a poor regular season by getting hot in the conference tournament. But now the conference tournaments won't mean as much. You won't have to win your conference tournament to get into the NCAA tournament, even if you finished 11th in your league, even if you went 7-11 in conference play, because there are 8 more at-large spots available. And as a power conference team, especially as an SEC team or a Big Ten team, your strength of schedule is already going to be high. Your net is going to be higher. Your WAB, wins above bubble, is going to be higher because you get the opportunity that UAB and Samford, Jacksonville State and South Alabama and a lot of other programs that are in mid-majors don't. They don't get those opportunities to play the big boys, to bolster their strength of schedule. So their margin for error is a lot thinner. Which is why, going forward, these 8 extra at-large spots are not going to be populated by the UABs and Samfords and South Alabamas of the world. They're going to be populated by 17 and 16 Auburns. Seems pretty obvious. We've already shared with you the numbers. David Warlock from the NCAA shared the numbers. 63% of the first 4 out since 2011 have been Power 5 teams. 67% of them in the last 3 years. So the NCAA, for the acquisition of $300 million more, is going to water down the best thing it does. No one was really asking for this. No one was clamoring for it. The public certainly wasn't. And kudos to Dan Gavin again for acknowledging that. He said today, again on that media teleconference after the announcement was made official, I know there's not excitement in some corners of the media and fan base. But so what? They don't care about you. They don't care about me. They don't care about people who have cared about basketball passionately for a long, long time, who watch the sport in November and December and January with as much interest and enthusiasm as we do in February and March, and then the first week of April when we get to the Final Four. They don't care about us. They care about dollar bills. And I don't know whether to consider this honest or cynical or some combination of both, but in the NCAA press release announcing the expanded fields, they acknowledged, as if this is a good thing, that what this is going to provide by expanding the tournament are, quote, I had to write this down, expanded in-game advertising opportunities. Oh, joy. Longer TV timeouts. More TV timeouts. Just what the serious and casual college basketball fan has been asking for. Expanded in-game advertising opportunities. But they didn't stop there. They let you know who's going to be buying this advertising, which is why television is going to pay them $300 million over the next 6 years, because television is going to be able to sell more ads, more games, more teams, more games, more ad space. The NCAA now is going to allow, quote, new, previously restricted product categories, including beer, wine, spirits, and hard seltzer. Just what we needed, more beer ads in sporting events. That's what this is all about. Selling beer. Not preserving the quality of the tournament. Not making it special to make your way into the NCAA tournament. Whether you won your conference championship or you earned an at-large bid, they're not about that. They didn't make the tournament better today. They just made it bigger. And we don't really need to explain that bigger does not equal better, unless perhaps you're an NCAA decision maker. And for every one of you in the mid-major conferences, every commissioner, every athletic director, every head coach who thinks this is going to benefit you, good night and good luck as you watch more and more SEC teams and more Big Ten teams underperform in the regular season and walk right into this expanded NCAA tournament. This is about them, not you. This is about money, not fans. This is about an organization that has many problems, far more serious to deal with. They talk about every day, NIL, transfer portal. They're running relay races to Washington, D.C. to ask lawmakers who can't agree on the color of the sky to save them from themselves. So what did they do with some of their precious time and brain power? Did they solve some of these problems that affect the fundamental nature of college athletics? No. They decided to take the best thing they do and make it worse. Well done, folks. Well done. That's going to do it for me for today. I'm Kevin Skarbinski, a.k.a. Scarbo, here on Scarbo Knows. Appreciate you watching, whether you're on the Sidelines Live Network or on YouTube. And if you're on YouTube, go ahead and click that subscribe button. Don't cost nothing, but it does help us out, and we appreciate it. And now stay tuned for a word from our sponsor, Money Management Services. The Rice family, they've been in business in Birmingham since 1992. Any financial needs you have, they can help. Let's hear what they have to say next. I'm out. See ya.
Since 1992, Money Management Services in Birmingham has provided individuals and business owners with trusted, fee-only financial advice. We're more than advisors, we're your financial family. From retirement planning to tax strategies and estate planning, our team builds personalized wealth management plans tailored to your life. At Money Management Services, we treat you like family, because when you walk through our doors, you become part of ours.